All right. We are live. Hey, everybody. It's your girl, Nakikia Wilson, aka Coach Keep It Moving. And I'm here with the doc, Dr. Shana Williams. And we are a couple minutes later and realized time was moving that fast. Y'all know it's the start of the school week, work week after a holiday. So we around here wrangling children, trying to get them ready for bed. So y'all bear with us as we go through real life on a live. So if you hear us getting on kids and telling them to go to bed and get the clothes and stuff ready, hey, that's a part of life. That's what we probably gonna be doing. So bear with us. Nonetheless, we have um a serving of tea for you tonight, and we're going to be discussing dysfunctional families and the effects of the dysfunction on our mental and emotional health. And I have found this very necessary to talk about, of course, because some of us are um, living through it now. We're experiencing some of those negative effects from family dysfunction, family discord, and it's unfortunate. Some of what we're going through or experiencing is short of stupid. But when you don't know or you can, or you're not able to recognize what's going on, I kind of want to try to not excuse it, but I want to bring light to the situation because some of us pretend that we don't know what's going on. We avoid it, we ignore it, we don't want to talk about it. We just kind of want to sweep it under the carpet. But what we don't realize is that stuff affects us in our everyday lives. It affects us on our jobs. It affects us in our relationships. It affects every aspect of our lives when we are dealing with the effects of the family pathology of dysfunction. And that's what it is. It's a family pathology of dysfunction. And we all have it. I don't care who you are, what level of society you may be on, whether you in the poor or if you are middle class or rich, we all have some form of dysfunction in our families. All of us have their auntie, their uncle, their cousin, their brother, their sister, their mom or dad who is not functioning on the level that they should be functioning on, and it is causing and wreaking havoc on the family dynamic. And when you are a child or you have children growing up in those types of situations, what we don't understand is that we create children who become adults who carry on those toxic traits, those toxic behaviors, those have those toxic attitudes, and we go into relationships that are become negatively impacted by some of those unresolved issues. Especially when we're starting to deal with emotional insecurities from the dysfunction of the family. I was, talking to a family member this weekend about some of the dysfunctions in our family. I mean, we come from a long line of family dysfunction. It's unfortunate, and it has played a major role in how we operated through our own lives growing up as kids in those types of environments, and what impact it had on some of the decisions that we made for ourselves and going into relationships and taking jobs and friendships, whatever it impacted us, or it influenced how we thought about things, how we looked at things, and how we define love, or what we thought was healthy, but it really was not. So we want to talk about some of those issues, and I'm going to be real. I'm going to be real about my situation. I think most people already know that. I'm going to tell you right quick. My mom and my daddy both were toe up from the flow up, and they created children. They had children, and they raise children in their environment of toxicity and bad behavior and just self-destruction, and it's a mess, and we experienced it, and it influenced our lives in negative ways. Now we turned out to be okay, but there are some of the things that we experienced had we been raised in a more healthy environment. I think that some of the decisions that we made for ourselves would have been a whole lot better. Some of the relationships that we developed would have been a whole lot healthier. Even the relationship with ourselves, the way we see ourselves, and how we saw ourselves would have been a lot different and much healthier than they had been. And I know, Shannon, you can probably attest to some of what I'm saying. I'm going to let you go ahead and come on in from your experiences, and what you see as a clinician, from
Oh boy.
that come from families who are dysfunctional.
Oh
You already
gosh.
look disgusted. Wait, let's back up a minute. Hold up. Because first of all, your energy, I feel it. I don't know what's going on, but I
No,
feel
I'm
it.
not
I like,
disgusted. It's putting kids to bed.
oh, well, we both doing that, baby. Well, we might as well just laugh about that. And you want me to sip some tea for you?
Please sip some tea.
Mm.
And then
Take,
my shoulder's a
take a
little
big cup.
painful. My shoulder's a little
We're gonna
painful.
have to talk about that shoulder, because we're gonna have to just get you a new one.
No, I'm 3 weeks. I'm 3 weeks in, so I got about three
Oh,
more weeks to go.
I feel like more than that.
It's not because
It's
I had
not
the
more than
surgery.
that.
The week of
Oh,
the surgery doesn't count. It's the ones.
oh,
uh,
that don't count. Oh, the devil is a lie. Yeah.
Well, that's what I said. I was like, I
In my
started
head,
physical therapy.
okay, well, we'll all right. But okay, as from a personal standpoint, you can speak if you like, or if you want to just speak from a clinical standpoint, that's fine as well. But please speak on it.
So, mm, dysfunction affects a lot of different things, and I mean, and dysfunction doesn't necessarily mean that you have a broken family. It could be that you have two parents that have come from homes that may have been toxic or may have been broken, and then that's all they know. So then they perpetuate the same thing without consciously realizing what's happening.
So can you
Um,
define what let's talk about, let's define what dysfunction is first, especially as it relates to a family. Let's define it first.
so dysfunction could be anything from toxic behaviors that affect the way that you perceive events. So there are some people where they come from a one parent household and their parent may have been very abusive, because their parents may have been very abusive. And then their parents before them may have been very abusive, but they didn't see it as abuse because that's the way that they established their rules in their household. But that same dysfunction got perpetuated in each household because that was how each parent knew how to raise their kids and do things that way. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one part of dysfunction. So most people think of dysfunction as, oh well, my family, I was raised in a single parent household, and my mom was on drugs. Most people think of dysfunction like that. But dysfunction could be anything from a parent or drugs, two parents that come from very toxic parenthoods. It could be one parent where there is an unconventional way of raising children. It could be a traumatized parent that hasn't dealt with their trauma, and the other parent is trying to help that parent get over that trauma. And it can actually affect different pieces of it, different pieces of their marriage, their relationship, their relation to their children. Because for some people that are having like either traumatic events or have had traumatic events, they don't know how to be affectionate. And that can also lead to some dysfunction in their kid when they get to their relationships, because this person is expecting for them to be affectionate and they don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen dysfunction in many different ways as a clinician, and it ranges from those things that I just said versus everybody's typical definition of dysfunction.
So what I found as far as the definition of what dysfunction is, and I would like to say that I can agree with the definition. It's not operating normally, whether that be not operating normally or properly, based on how you should be in society or throughout life. It's a normal way of being, and when you're not being, when it's abnormal, whether it's you're dealing with emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, when you're dealing in toxic attitudes and behaviors about how you're raising your children, like trying to keep them away from certain things, or you have certain toxic and negative beliefs, and you're raising the kids based on that. That's dysfunctional. When you're teaching the kids negative ways of being, like I've seen parents who just looking at TikTok and YouTube, you see all kinds of stuff. Parents teaching the kids how to steal. Parents pimping their children out for drugs, and that's dysfunctional. That's dysfunctional. And it's not a normal way of being. It's not a normal way of living. But unfortunately,
But to some people,
normalized it.
for some people, that's normal for them.
Right. And I just said some people have normalized it, and it's unfortunate that we have. It's just like we normalize not talking about our emotional issues or our feelings or our thoughts, because we've been taught not to. We've been taught that it's not important, that children should be seen and not heard. And in some cases, that's true. But when we're talking about when things are happening and children need to speak about it, or children need to talk about what they feel is wrong for them, and we don't want to hear them, that is dysfunctional. When we shut a child up from expressing themselves in a healthy way, not being disrespectful.
One of those ways to be, you don't cry. Don't stop that crying. Big boys don't cry.
Right.
Stop crying like a little girl.
Or when parents put children in situations that they should not be, because they're not mentally or emotionally mature to handle or understand those situations. That is dysfunctional, it's unhealthy, and I'm sorry, it's abusive.
It is.
So when you're having problems with another adult, and you involve or you manipulate a child into believing that or having them involved in any way, that is it's ridiculous, and it's immature, it's wrong, it's unhealthy, it's toxic, and it's very it's a form of manipulation, a form of control, and it's just wrong, and it's very, very dysfunctional,
and it's toxic.
Very. Goes without saying, but there is a lot of people who are experiencing this situation where children are being used as pawns against another parent or against another adult, and it's wrong. I don't care what the situation is. You should never put a child in a place where they are not mentally and emotionally mature enough to understand what's going on, where you're trying to coerce or get a child to believe you are the right person and somebody else is the wrong person because you feel a certain way about that person. It's wrong. It's wrong. Allow that child to figure out for themselves who, what's, at some point, okay, my mom or my dad really is a butthole, or my mom or my dad really was the person that they tried to describe. But don't involve them purposely just so you can get at that other person. I think that's
what happens is they end up in my office confused and mad and upset because they have spent years disliking somebody. And before they know it, it's like, oh, well, that parent was the parent that really was helpful to me and you lied to me. So
Right.
then it ends up coming back to you as a parent, as that parent who ended up starting the whole thing. And kids
Mm-hmm.
aren't stupid.
Right.
So whether and I don't want to correct what you're saying, I just want to rephrase it.
Uh-huh.
There are kids that are in check enough with their emotions
Mm-hmm.
that they already know how they feel. So when you involve them in your confusion, all it does is make the how they feel even more confusing, but it also makes them very angry
Right. It
because
makes
kids
matters
know
worse.
when you lying to them.
Right, because
So you know.
you can feel a certain way, and for you the feeling is valid. But my thing is for another adult to rather than make to lessen the confusion, to lessen the pain behind whatever it is they're feeling, they're adding fuel to the fire. You're
All
adding
you
more
all you're
confusion
doing
to what
when
they're
you're
feeling.
adding fuel to the fire is the child is not able to come to their own conclusion. And when they do, you're gonna be in trouble.
It ends up not being a healthy conclusion.
Well, and it's gonna be ugly because
Right.
that child is going to either one pitch a fit or two be so confused that they are going to do something to hurt themselves because they're so overwhelmed by what is going on. And I have seen it, I have heard about it. I have seen children cutting on themselves to relieve whatever pain is going on that they can't talk about to either parent because both parents are bickering.
Right. I I
And kids
am.
know because I have kids that come and tell me, "Yeah, I know my mama lying about such such such," or I know my dad's lying about blah blah blah.
Mhm.
They know.
And
They tell my mama, I know.
how do you work with them through that?
Um, it's getting them to really understand, and the sad part about it is that they have such trust issues. I have to attain their trust first before they'll even talk to me. So it's like the first couple of sessions, I'm asking them, about kind of what bothers them, how they feel. I'm trying to establish a rapport with them. There are some things, and I actually tell parents this. There are some things I'm not going to be able to share with you.
Mhm.
And if you're not okay with that, then you need to find another therapist or you need to find another provider. And they
Mhm.
say, well, why do you say that? The only things I will share with you are things that endanger yourself or your child. Anything that doesn't fit into those categories, they have to trust me enough to talk to me to tell me what's going on. And because all of that confusion is going on, the adolescents, they don't want to talk. They don't want nothing to do with that.
Mhm.
Because either one, you go tell my parents, or two, I don't trust you enough and I don't trust them. I'm gonna stick with the people that I got out in the street and in school, and then I'll help out, they'll help me figure it out. And 9 times out of 10, that's not the best option all the time.
Mhm.
And that's how some of our teens, that's how some of our adolescents end up experimenting with things that they have no idea about.
Okay, and I want to go to another type of kind of like dysfunction. When we have adults who are in the dysfunction, they are trying to
Hold up. Why are you
make
trying to find words instead of
why
just
am I,
saying it?
well, because I'm trying to be dignified in what I'm saying, because I'm like, I go back and look at my videos. I'm like, okay, I need to change up some stuff because, I want people to take what I'm doing serious or what we're doing seriously. So I'm like, okay, let me try to be a little bit more dignified at what I'm saying. But since you said it, I'm going to just go ahead and say, like, when you have,
I
like, I've
mean,
read
honestly,
on
we're keeping
Facebook
it real
today.
on this.
So today I was reading how family members are using children against another family member and have always done that. And the person has had this whole, I'm tired, I'm sick. And now they're calling out everybody on social media. And it's like, how do you handle when that is happening? Now, the person is, you know, I don't know the whole scope of the story, and I don't care to really know. All I know is from what I'm reading is that it's very negative, it's very toxic, and it's unhealthy one way or the other. So how do we help people navigate when things like that are going on in a family dynamic? So it's like, okay, types of family dysfunction. This one would be, to me, chronic family conflict.
I mean, honestly, once you put it on social media, it's not something you can take back, and you've already kicked it to a whole another level. So coming back from that is one thing, because you have just, and I don't mean any offense to anybody, but I'm just gonna say you have now perpetuated more dysfunction.
Mm. But how does that person get the support and help that they need to get through what it is they posted about? Because there's a reason why that's posted. Not only are they trying to call out the behavior, I'm not saying it's the right way to do it.
They may need to reach
was the
out.
only way to do it.
They may need to reach out to whoever their resources are, if they have any. Because once you post it, and people have heard me say this before, once you ring a bell, you can't unring it.
Right.
So when you do that, sometimes you may not get the support that you need from social media. You may get the exact opposite.
I never think it's healthy. Now I can't say that I have.
I don't think it's healthy to post your business on Facebook
and
or
I'm
social media
not trying
anyway.
to say I'm not guilty of it. I've done it myself before. But I haven't. I don't think I called any names or anything like that. Either way, it's not really healthy for you, the person posting it. It's just like you said, it's perpetuating it. It's not resolving anything really.
It's not resolving anything. It's actually perpetuating more dysfunction. And if you feel like you got it out and you feel better afterwards, after posting it, then you've met your goal. But if you posted it and you still don't feel any better about it, then you basically haven't resolved anything.
So
for me, I could be mad as a hornet about something.
Right.
But at the same time, I could either choose to resolve it with that person, or I could step away.
That's what I would, because
you're choosing to have more drama when you perpetuate more dysfunction by posting, because I know you're going to see it if I don't tag you in it. So I don't know how much resolution you would expect from social media, because now you have perpetuated this whole dysfunction. You have people in your business that don't have any business in your business. And the resolution, you're now not gonna get that resolution from the posting, because people are now mad. And even people who probably weren't
involved
now.
People involved gonna be mad. That's for damn sure. They about to be angry as a hornet. If they haven't seen it.
And it doesn't matter if you take it down. It doesn't matter what you do with it. Once you cause the dysfunction, it's either you decide to step away from that and deal with yourself and some accountability, and be like, look, if this is what they want to perpetuate, I don't necessarily have to be around you.
And I get that it would be hard because it's involving a child. Now, granted, this child is an adult now, but when this has been apparently going on for as long since they were younger, and now is now involving their child, and the child is now an adult, and it's still going on. My thing now, because I talk about my cutoff game being sizzle sharp. At this point, it's about now you have to protect your mental and your emotional space. And if you have given chance after chance after chance, like I said, I don't know. I just know what I read. I see what I read. And from what I'm reading, it doesn't matter. It's healthy. And I realize that there are different perceptions. There's the perception of the side of blame that this person is blaming or talking about, and then there's her side, and then there's the reality of the situation. And so we have to take a step back and say, okay, how do I protect my mental and emotional space now? Because that's now what we are that's important. Because now you're at a point where this child is now an adult. So this child can make decisions on his or her own about how they're going to view their parent or parents. So at this point, it's time to use your scissors. And sometimes that means you have to cut people off, even if it's the person you birthed. Because they're enabling it now. They're an adult. They know better to allow that to even happen, to allow this to continue. Like, you can now make up your own mind, but you don't, right? Why do you not make up your mind about how things should take place? Am I making sense? Or am I just
talking about but if that person is not able to do that, if that person is not able to do that because of all the confusion that has been going on, then you're having an expectation of a confusing situation to work itself out. And this confusing situation has been going on for so long that that particular adult child may be to the point where I'm not trying to deal. I just want to I want to keep the peace on both sides.
But there is no peace.
Well,
the only peace is when that person is having peace. There's really no true peace.
But we know that. We know there's no true peace. But in my confused mind, I am just not wanting to deal with it anymore, or they deal with it in their own way. So now people are expecting for things to end where it's been confusing from day one. It doesn't work like that. There are some times where people need to be able to see things for themselves, and you can't expect for them to arrive at your timetable just because you arrived there.
Okay. How about this? This is, I guess, it's a continuation of.
It's a bad situation all the way around.
Yes,
it's not going to be resolved. It just got worse.
It did. I concur. I agree that it's just gotten worse, because my thing is to, in situations like that, it's okay to cut. It's okay to disconnect and to disengage from that toxicity. So either way, somebody's gonna have something to say. Whether you're always socially isolating yourself from the family, or you distancing yourself from the family, you don't never want to do nothing with us. But when you try to bring peace and harmony, or if that's what's going on, or if you try to make things right, or you're trying to give a person a chance to do and be better, yet you give them your hand and they still biting at it. It's like, how many more times am I going to keep reaching and you bite me every time I reach? I'm not going to keep reaching and you keep biting me. So at some point, I'm going to stop letting you bite me. So it's time to stop letting people bite you. Am I right? So you won't look like the bad person posting all this stuff on social media, trying to call out a bad behavior from someone else when you're participating in that bad behavior by even giving energy to it. Because you posting stuff like that gives energy to that, what's going on.
I don't think what people realize is that when you pull back from somebody or you cut off somebody, that means that somewhere along the line, that person disturbed your peace. And whether they understand that or not, you have to be okay with the cutoff game. Because there's some people that will say, I don't want to engage in this. I don't want to be a part of it, but they still go around it. I don't go around anything or anyone. Anybody that's my friends and my family will tell you, if I don't want to be somewhere and I don't want to go somewhere, I'm not going. Mm-hmm. I will be perfectly polite with people that I have cut off. Mm-hmm. And there's been people that I have talked to just recently where it's like, I don't really have much to say. Hey, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? Oh, I'm good. I'm good. We'll keep in touch. I absolutely will. If they text me, I text back. Hey, I'm good. But that's all you're gonna get from me. We ain't gonna ha-ha and he and caca for the next hour or so.
Right. Like I have family right now that, are from that were actually married into the family, regardless of the family. And I find that sometimes even hearing from them brings anxiety, because I know that at some point the conversation is going to turn into an argument, or because I believe a certain thing and I don't believe it the way that they believe it, that I'm wrong, or that I'm made to be wrong, or there's a flaw in what I'm saying just because they don't agree with what I'm saying or how I'm saying it, or me sharing my thoughts and perceptions of things. It's going to turn into something negative. So I have pulled back. So when they send a text or try to call, I may not respond or I may not answer, but I'm protecting my mental and emotional space by doing that. And so when I decide to respond, it's a limit. I'm very limited in my conversation because I don't want it to turn. When I sense that something's going to turn awry, I disengage. Well, it was nice talking to you. I'll talk to you another time. Cut it short.
Or I even say, hey, you know what? That's in the past. We don't have that discussion. We moving forward. You want to move forward?
Right.
No? All right, then. That's cool.
You know what? I'm going to give you an example. So I was having a good discussion with Michael last night. And we were talking about just different things about, because I was talking about my family member who's getting ready to go through a different family dynamic, going through separation, divorce, and the kids are, of course, unfortunately, they are inappropriately involved in something that they should not be involved in, conversations that they should not be involved in. And we were having that conversation, and we were just talking about our experience of going through separation and divorce and how we handle our emotions during the time that we were going through that, and how we did not allow our own personal feelings towards each other to affect how we were going to navigate raising our children. We didn't involve our children in our marital discord. We did not involve our children in our mental and emotional drama towards each other. We did not involve our children in adult conversations or adult situations that they are not mentally or mature enough to handle or understand. Now, the confusion, there is always, it's already confusion. The fact that the family dynamic is being disrupted. We're going to be living in two different houses. The family is not going to be under one roof. There's already that. So for us to have had the gall to put our emotional and mental mess on our children just to hurt the other parent would have been damaging and just immature and just idiotic, ignorance. But that's what's going on. So we had that conversation, and we were talking about our own personal growth, and so I was talking about where I was at the time, and how I responded, how I reacted. That wasn't necessarily a healthy thing for me or him, and he was doing I'm saying and I had to stop him. I said, let me just say this to you. I appreciate you listening to me, but you doing what you're doing right now by going you sure were, it's only saying to me that you're finding fault, that you're removing your own accountability for our marriage dissolving. So you're saying but you're not holding yourself accountable. And that's how I see when you make those gestures, that it does something to me. It triggers something. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'll stop. But people don't have those type of conversations that
people when they are, and I'm not excusing this behavior either, because it should be a more mature approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think when people don't know how to deal with the devastation of the separation and the dividing, it happens to where you then involve the kid, because it's like, okay, we need to figure out where our kids want to be, versus having the mature conversation, or even getting like into some sort of therapy to discuss how the kids feel, where the kids want to be, that kind of thing, and having that conversation with them. But a lot of people are not able to put their differences aside and their anger aside at that time that it's happening, and they constantly are going like this, and the kids unfortunately are, guess what, right in the middle of this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And nobody stops to realize that the kids are in the middle of this, because all they could think about is, I'm upset, I'm mad that it's going this way, and I want things to be different, I want this to be different. But it's like in that moment they can't stop that train from going all the way, like a runaway train down the track.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to happen is one of those kids, and I'm not speaking anything, but one of those kids is going to figure out something to stop them.
I'm open, so because right now the way the situation is, you got one parent
frustrated.
Well, you got one parent saying things to a child that he or she should not be saying to that child about the other parent. Just inappropriate things that should not be said, just so it makes them look better. It takes away their responsibility from the whole situation, the whole dynamic.
Well, what's sad is that those same words will come back to haunt them so my advice to the other parent: you know what is true, you know what is not true.
Right.
You remind your children of how much you love them and you care for them. But you do not, and I repeat, do not speak negatively of the other parent. Because the minute you both do that,
mm-hmm.
those children will talk to you about nothing.
Because then they're going to feel like they got to take sides.
Well, because right now for the kids, they're trying to figure out where they emotionally should be.
Mm-hmm.
So they need at least one parent to take whatever anger you have, go to the gun range, shoot it out, there's a break room in Morrisville, go break up some stuff, But figure out what you need to go. And I'm telling you, you can go in there and buy different packages and break up all kind of stuff.
I didn't even know that. Okay.
We got to go.
Okay.
You can go in there and take a bat and a crowbar and break up a
Can
whole
we
drive.
label the bricks? Can we label the bricks with what we want to label them with and then start crushing them? Because that's some good stuff too.
You go in the room specifically with goggles and all this little stuff and break stuff up.
Oh, okay. Now that's a healthy way to get out your crap now.
So if you need as a parent to go do that, they need at least one parent. Oh Lord. They need at least one parent that they can be able to feel emotionally safe with. If they don't feel emotionally safe with either parent, then guess what? They're going to the next resource that they have. If that's their friends, if that's another family member, or if somebody wants to present themselves as a safe space, then somebody could do that as well. But if you know about this situation and as a parent, you can't, I've even had to stop myself as a provider from actually saying to parents, both of y'all being stupid, both of y'all wrong. Fix it, get it together for your kid. I had to be like, hey, so what we have here is an emotionally confused child. Because what's the other thing is parents aren't willing to hear sometimes that they're wrong. And sometimes as parents, you're wrong.
And that's part of the issue that I'm finding. There's one parent who's very controlling and one parent that was a little bit more submissive in their approach. And so now it's this parent that was the controlling one who's actually controlling this whole unhealthy dynamic.
Well, yeah, because I've lost control because we're going like this.
Mm-hmm.
So the submissive parent cannot react. The submissive parent has to think about their response to the controlling parent because the kids already know who the controlling parent is.
Yeah,
they already know.
And unfortunately, they are in that environment with that controlling parent.
So their kid's response to them is solely, I feel safe with you. We got to survive with him. So we're going to conform to his controlling ways, and we have to survive.
That's it.
So,
but
my
dear, because there's this one, who's they're trying to survive. I hadn't even really thought about that. And so they're
I already know
the other parent in a disrespectful way because I'm like, the Lord knows who,
because
the Lord knows
when I come back to that parent that's submissive, I feel emotionally safe with you to express myself. If I have to survive out of fear,
there you go,
of that controlling parent and what they're going to do, when I come back to the submissive parent that I feel safe with,
I'm going to lash out.
I'm going to give you all I got because I got it's a place where I'm going to let that out. And sorry, submissive parent, if you're the safe parent, if they know that they can come to you with things, you are going to get disrespectful, angry, mad, sad, all kind of realms of behaviors that you are going to be like, what did I do wrong? Do not internalize that. It is about the fact that when we go back over there, we have to figure out how to shut down so we can survive that controlling parent. So any emotion that I have, if I express it with that controlling parent, I already know what's going to happen. So sorry, submissive parent, and I've been the brunt of this too as well. You will get all of the negative and anger and sadness. And sometimes that anger and disrespectful behavior is sadness. It's not anger. And if you sit quietly with your children and talk to them, you will be surprised what you will get. Hey guys, I'm so glad you're back. You glad we back? Why you keep sending us over there? Or it's, hey guys, I'm so glad you're back. Oh, really? You glad we back? You
Yeah, or
glad we back?
I love you. Well, you don't love her. You ain't in the
How you
house.
love me? How you love me? And I
Every
got to go over there. We spend more time over there than we do over here. Guys, this is not the, and it's be truthful. This is not the way that I want it, but right now, this is the way that it has to be. Do I want you guys here with me? Absolutely. I do.
Mm.
And it will hurt you to your core for your children to be disrespectful and mean based on
Yes.
all the things that they will say. I've heard one parent be told, you told my father to leave. The mom said, what? You told my daddy to leave. That's what you told my dad. The mom said, I didn't say anything like that. What are you talking about? When that mama broke out in tears, that child realized that the other parent had lied. Don't defend yourself against that other parent. Let your children know that you love them and you care about them. And y'all, please don't, I don't want you guys, and most people be like, no, you just beat it out of them. That's not going to work because you're reinforcing the same behavior that they just came from.
Mm.
You're creating more dysfunction by doing that because now it's okay. Well, shoot, I ain't safe with you either because all you gonna do is
Or she. Right.
And I see it time and time again where parents say, well, I'm not going to deal with this disrespectful behavior. You have to understand where it's coming from. These children have been in a home where you were together. They were a family. Now they are not a family, and we have to deal with being in two different areas and two different spectrums. And now, instead of you being able to save me from this controlling person, now you're not there. This is all we have left is this controlling person.
At least that's what they're led to believe.
But we'll catch up with you. If you are the parent that is being toxic and dysfunctional and spreading whatever rumors, lies, whatever.
Oh, you gonna get it.
It will come back to haunt you because the parent that is consistent, the parent that has the same consistent behavior, the parent that constantly shows them that they do love them, they don't need to control them, they can express themselves, that parent eventually will be seen for what they truly are. And your children will tell you, I don't want to go over there. I don't want to be bothered with that parent. I can't tell right now which one of you is the bad parent.
Because it's so fresh, right? The whole dynamic is fresh.
But right now, I can tell you, I don't feel safe with that parent. So if you're hearing different things or you're getting different emotions, if you're getting happy, sad, mad, glad, bad, quiet, something's going on with your kids. Somebody needs to be in touch with them, or you need to put these kids in therapy.
There's no doubt about that. There is going to be somebody laying across some couches. Like they're gonna all need. Look, it should have been happening for the parents. Should have been laying across some couches long before the togetherness happened. But we don't know that because we're just now in our community starting to have these conversations about mental and emotional health and the fact of how it's important to have your own issues resolved before you go into these relationships and then bring little people who are going to grow up to be big people, who are going to have their own little people who grow up to be big people. And this whole kit just keeps going. There's the dignity just out the window.
Because let's think about it. How many divorced people do you know, both men and women? You get divorced from somebody, and then in 6 months they're with this next person, or in 3 months, or in a month, they're with another person, and everybody look confused because they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, where did this new person come from?" And the new person that's with them doesn't know or knows that you just got out of something, but I'm totally over it. That is a fib. That is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
If more people separated and divorced and spent time by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
the less dysfunction you will have. Because if that person is not over the last relationship, they're going to perpetuate the same thing that they did in the relationship after relationship after relationship. And trust me, it will be relationship after
Oh,
relationship
I've
after
seen it.
relationship.
I've seen it. I've seen it. I see it all the time. I'm pretty much, I can say I'm guilty of myself for reasons, or my definition of what love looks like or should be has been flawed and skewed and distorted. I now know that what I thought was love, or what I thought love should be or look like, was very distorted, very wrong, and it's not that. It's not, love is not what somebody else says it is, or how other people say it should be. It is what it looks like for you. Love and happiness is what you make for yourself, and someone or other people coming in and adding or enhancing that happiness, not taking away from it. One person or another cannot solely love you or make you happy if you have not done that for yourself first. And that's one thing I know I have learned, that it is not Michael Walton, or was not Michael Walton's responsibility to fix my emotional insecurities. It was not his responsibilities, and I put that on him, and vice versa. And when we learn that we need to resolve whatever family issues, mama, daddy issues that we have not dealt with, if we don't deal with that and resolve that, we're going to take that in, it's going to go throughout our lives. It's going to be show up in our relationships, whether it be with our significant others, whether it be with our children, or what have you. Those ugly little insecurities are going to show up, and they're going to wreak havoc on those relationships. And we're not going to know why or understand why we keep going in and out of relationships, why we can't seem to have healthy relationships with other people, why we can't seem to find happiness, why we can't seem to be in a dynamic that feels good or feels great, for us. Why is that? It's because we have not resolved our issues, and we continue to go throughout life denying or avoiding the emotional insecurities that we have from toxic behaviors and attitudes from our family dynamics. And that's just the truth of the matter. I looked at love in such a negative way. It wasn't healthy at all. I thought love only involved if the sex involved, it's good. That's, they love you. If being violent towards another person was a sign, oh, they love me, they don't want to be without me, they love, so them knocking you upside the head was a sign that they loved you, and not, oh, wait a minute, hold up, there's something wrong. They're manipulating me. They're trying to control me because they have their own insecurities. We looked at that as love. They love me. No, that is not healthy. It's not normal. It's just not.
Or, I'm sorry, this is also dysfunctional when you meet somebody and every person that they've been with been crazy and it ain't them. That's dysfunctional.
You better believe it. If I think I've mentioned this to you before. While I was talking to this young man, I'm always looking for the signs and symptoms of assholeness. so he had, 2 baby mamas. That was a problem right there. And then both of the baby mamas were crazy. That's another problem right there. And then neither one of the baby mamas would allow him to see his children. That's a problem. My conclusion was the common denominator is you. So what is it that you are doing or not doing for the 2 different people to be doing the same thing to you, and nothing seems to change. You still can't see your children, or you haven't seen your children. So that just goes to show you're not taking responsibility or accountability for something. Now, I'm not saying they might be crazy. I don't know. It could be. But what is your role in that craziness? What is your role that you cannot see or have not been able to see your children? What is your role for these two people, two different people, to be treating you the way that you say that they're treating you? What is the problem? It ain't just them, buddy. There's an issue with you that you have failed and you have clearly avoided. You keep denying it. You keep pussyfooting around and trying to sweep it under the carpet because you don't want to accept accountability for your own personal flaws, your own emotional insecurities. There's something that's keeping you from having a healthy relationship with the parents and your children. So where's your accountability? Honey, he got so damn mad at me. Think I cared? Nope.
So that's my point, though, is that, like, you know, and some of all what we've been talking about with this dysfunction, it just bleeds into every aspect of your life. What could happen in your childhood could bleed into your relationship with men or women. It could bleed into how you perceive yourself. It could bleed into relationships that you have with other people, friends that you choose. So this whole dysfunction can start from one place and be like, yeah, and exactly. If I change partners, I don't have to look dysfunctional. I'm fine because that next person doesn't know who I truly am. They get to know my representative. You meet the person who they really are once they got you.
I'm typing because, you know, we're streaming in 3 different areas of Facebook, and so right now what's up here is streaming from the Keep It Moving media page. So I'm typing what I'm seeing from my personal page with what people are saying, and Kelly says something very poignant, that people change partners. Honey, this is so evident. People change partners so they don't have to change themselves.
Of course, because then that makes me look dysfunctional. And I ain't dysfunctional. Ain't nothing dysfunctional about me. It's them. Remember the crazy exes?
It's everybody else's fault. It's, you know, and I'm writing, you know, a chapter in a book now. And that'll be coming out soon, y'all. But writing this chapter in the book, and I decided that I wanted to write on blame.
I'm writing in the book too.
and I'm talking about my relationship with my parents, and, you know, how I was, you know, how it affected me, and when looking back, how my attitude, my behaviors, I excused them because I wanted to blame my parents. But once you become aware, you become responsible. So you can continue to blame Tom, Dick, and Harry, Mary, Sue, and Sally all you want to for whatever toxic behavior and attitude you may have. But as an adult, when you become aware, you become responsible. And it's no point in blaming and continuing to point the finger and try to excuse your behavior and attitude to make yourself look good. Because guess what, buddy? Guess what, sis? Guess what, bro? You only show your ignorance, and you only show your immaturity. That's all you're doing. You're only showing the fact that you are really more insecure than you think. And you really ought to go see somebody about that. You're going to have to do a little bit more than pray. You're going to have to pray and go lay on somebody's couch. because you need to resolve that. Because what you're doing is you're continuing, you're perpetuating negative behaviors, and you're putting that crap out in the atmosphere, and you're teaching your children the same thing. And guess what? If we don't teach them something different, if we don't be different, it's just going to continue. So if you see that there's something wrong, someone is bringing it to your attention, you become aware. Because somebody done told you. Somebody done told you what was wrong. What has happened is you have dismissed it. You have decided that I'm not going to be accountable for that because it makes me look bad. It makes me feel bad. It doesn't make me look good. You're trying to stroke that ego. And your ego.
Oops, she sipped the tea.
I'm gonna just be quiet.
Ego ain't as in check.
I done said to me, I done said one too many cuss words already. So y'all pardon me. I was trying. Shut up. Look, I'm gonna blame you for making me be bad. No, I made a decision to just go ahead and keep it real, because that's what this platform is for. Keeping it real.
And the thing is that their ego is actually more fragile, which is why they exchange partners. So that ego that they think they got that's in check. It's like a piece of cracked glass in your windshield that kind of spread until your glass shatter. So,
well, look. If you are one of these people who are operating in dysfunction, I would admonish you to find a way to stop. It's not going to be easy because we have normalized this type of behavior, this type of attitude. But if you are a person that you have children involved, I want you to stop and think, am I this person? Am I operating in dysfunction? Are my thoughts, behaviors, and feelings in a place of dysfunction? Am I trying to stroke my own ego? Am I trying to make somebody else look bad to stroke my own ego? If the answer is yes, don't be ashamed of it. Don't be ashamed. Just tell the truth, shame the devil. Because some of y'all, I'm almost positive, if you're watching this, if you're going to look at this later, you or someone you know is operating in dysfunction. And it's time to do something different. Dysfunction is not normal. It happens, but chronic dysfunction is not normal. And we need to do something to make things better. We need to operate in something else so we can become more healthy, and that the people around us can experience a more healthy version of ourselves. I'm just saying. You want to add to that, Shana? I'm just saying. That's what I'm saying.
You can choose to be different, or you can choose to spend a lifetime searching and figuring out who you are. Because as you change partners, the same thing will repeat itself because you have not changed.
And if you are changing partners too, that's a question I have. So you changing partners, you're still trying to you're avoiding dealing with yourself. So would you agree that doing that, we know it's not healthy, but now you are responsible or influencing somebody else's mess? You know what I mean? Like, you are changing partners so you don't have to address yourself, but now you messing up somebody else's life with your mess.
And you also have to be able, but you also have to be able to be mature enough to listen to the friends of yours that tell you, hey, you might want to spend some time by yourself, bro. Sis, you might want to sit with yourself a little bit. But a lot of it, too, like I said, there's a lot of things in behavioral health that stem from childhood. Well, no, you say that, but a lot of people don't realize there's been things that have happened either in your childhood or somewhere along in your childhood that didn't get dealt with. that you now are being confronted by, or something's bubbling up that triggers something in you.
Yep. And we don't know where the triggers, because we don't know what our triggers are.
Or like somebody said to me today, I had to figure out that people that I were dating, either I really pitied them and felt like I could save them, or they reminded me of my mother. But that was triggering, and couldn't figure out why the relationship didn't work. Because you picking the wrong two people.
Mm-hmm.
But they had to become aware of that behavior to stop that dysfunction from perpetuating itself to their children, and be able to dispel that myth for their children and say, hey, look, I didn't have the right partner. I didn't choose well.
Right.
Not be like, oh, well, your mama was this and that and the third and da 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 da. I didn't make the right choice. And as a result, it ended up in me and your mother not being together. And that probably saved some of their children at least, at least a couple of months off the couch.
Okay.
I'm just saying, because they were both honest with their kids, they were able to put aside their feelings and really see what it really was, and be able to say to their kids, this is what it really is, versus, your mom is such and such and such and such.
And yeah, I think that's where Michael and I choose the, I think both of us, I think in our family dynamic period where he grew up, and I grew up, I think we were always seen as something or some people that were different. And I get it, it's okay, because we've made this decision to, although we are not married or we are not together like that anymore, but our dynamic is healthier now. And that we've made this decision to be different from the stereotypical family dynamic in dysfunction. We've chosen to be different, even if it wasn't initially for ourselves. We made this decision because we didn't get this when we were younger. We didn't get this in our family dynamic. We didn't get the healthy part. Now, I don't know if we really knew that that's what we were doing, but we chose to do it. That we wanted to be different for our children, that we are taking them through a very major change that can be traumatic. And I'm gonna play a video too, because I got a video. We've taken through them a very traumatic change. Mia was, I want to say 13, 14. Yeah, about 13 when we got divorced. That's traumatic. That girl lived 13 years of her whole entire life in one house with two people. And her brother did for most of his life. And, Tay was about 3 or 4. So she lived some of her life with both parents in one house under one roof and one dynamic. And for it to change so drastically, that was enough. But to add fuel to the fire by being ignorant and placing our emotional and mental mess on them, involving them in that, we definitely didn't want to do that. And so I know people think, we're weird, and that's okay. I don't care. You can think what you want to, because it's not normalized in typical families anyway. But our goal was, of course, to make it different, to do something different. And I'm hoping people will watch these videos and these lives and understand that it's cool. It's cool to be different and do things normal and do things properly and be healthy in the relationship. All 3 of my kids know mom and daddy are a team, whether we're in one house or 2 houses. If they get in trouble at daddy's house, guess where they in trouble at? Mama's house too. Whatever they have at daddy's house, they're going to have at mama's house, and vice versa. You got a lot of love at daddy's, you're going to have a lot of love at mama's too. Period, point blank. It ain't going to be me talking to Tay about her daddy and saying something ignorant, and it's not going to be him talking to Tay about him saying something negative about it. It's none of that. Because what good is it going to do? It's just going to damage our children. And at some point, they're going to look at us like,
at some point, they're going to be like, both of y'all crazy, and I don't want nothing to do with none of y'all.
Right.
They're going to use the cutoff game. And then you wondering why they ain't coming to see you, or you in the old folks' home sitting there
in
wondering why they're trying to come and see you.
In a wet diaper. Like, why am I back? Right. Mm-hmm. But I found this video. Of course, I'm going to play it. And I know you can go and check on CJ and do what you need to do. It's a 4-minute video, but it talks about trauma and what it looks like and how people are affected. So I'm going to play that, and we can come back and discuss it for a few minutes if you like. But go ahead and do them. I'm going to go ahead and play this and let me know. Y'all give me a thumbs up if you can see it. I'm going to go ahead and play it.
Trauma occurs in many forms, ranging from verbal to physical and or sexual. Whether you've personally experienced abuse or have witnessed it, we want you to know that it's not your fault, nor are you alone. Not only is it hard to talk about, but it follows you even after it's over. We hope wherever you are today that you're in a safer place. Our hearts go out to anyone who's been a victim of childhood abuse. In our description box below, we've included a few hotlines in case you need to contact someone for help. As always, you can also reach out in the comment box. Here are 7 ways childhood trauma follows you into adulthood. 1. You can't seem to remember much of your younger years at all. Do your high school years feel like a blur? You might find yourself drawing a blank when someone brings up a childhood memory, and you can't recall the same one. People with childhood trauma may experience flashbulb memories, in which they remember vivid moments, but not the full event. When you look back on the past, it's made up of more black holes than fully written chapters. You might even feel like someone or something has stolen your childhood, depending on the severity of the events. 2. You find yourself in toxic relationships. If you've ever watched or read The Perks of Being a Wallflower, you'd be familiar with the quote, "We accept the love we think we deserve." When you grow up in a household devoid of love and emotional support, healthy relationships are a foreign concept to you. In fact, many people who face childhood trauma often adopt the fearful avoidant attachment style, where they want emotionally close relationships, but find it hard to trust or depend on others completely. Consequently, without knowing it, you might seek destructive relationships, mistaking the mistreatment and uncertainty for excitement. 3. Or you feel like you don't deserve love at all. People who experienced abuse in their childhoods might avoid romantic relationships altogether, believing they can't be loved by others. This is known as the anxious preoccupied attachment, where the individual wants to establish emotional intimacy with others, but often fears rejection. As a result, vulnerability is usually avoided when they've only been hurt by people they once trusted. This kind of trauma doesn't just ache, it ruins you. 4. You develop passive aggressiveness. Did you grow up in a household with anger all the time? It can be so scarring that you might even grow fearful of this emotion. You learned at a young age that none of your emotional needs were important, so you've only resorted to burying or suppressing them. As you reach adulthood, you'll continue to exercise passive-aggressive behavior because straightforward communication was avoided when you were a child. 5. Negative self-talk is amplified. Childhood trauma gets into victims' heads and makes them believe they won't ever be good enough. It's not something they can just snap out of or fix with positivity. It's scary and real how convincing their parents might have been when their words and actions cut them deep. 6. You ride an emotional roller coaster. You might either feel too much or not enough at all. Trauma can cause a disruption in your emotional well-being. Signs include trouble-making decisions, impulsive behavior, and random outbursts of anger or frustration. 7. You don't know who you are. Identity is difficult, but it seems more impossible to grasp or pin down when you face childhood trauma. It's slippery like a fish, and the more you try to see yourself, the less you begin to recognize who you thought you were. Have you or anyone you know experienced any of these symptoms? Please share your thoughts with us below. We're an open-minded team and we will never judge you for your stories. In fact, we often find them inspiring. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more helpful tips and share this video with others. Thanks so much for watching.
So there you have that. And so those are some, examples of what, let me make sure y'all can see me. Those are some examples of course, what happens when you deal with those traumas. And I'm, as a clinician, Shana, I know you've seen some of those very things in your sessions with other people. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I was on mute. My bad. But I can't say it enough. What gets perpetuated in childhood turns into adulthood behaviors, turns into adulthood, lack of feeling, lack of emotions. And that person could become, that person grows into a person to where before I get hurt, I'll hurt you.
Right.
And so it could lead to a lot of negative things just from something as simple as, hey, your dad's a bum, just so you know.
And my point, and the point is when you share or say stuff like that to another person or a child, for me, it just goes to show how immature and the lack of emotional intelligence, how low your emotional intelligence is, how emotionally and mentally insecure you are as an individual to even have to say that or to even have to utter those words. I mean, because we don't really need to know how you feel about that person. Why do you want to spread your negative energy? I mean, if you have the energy, fine. If that's how you feel, fine. But it's not healthy to put that on somebody else. Because to me, it's like you're saying that because you want them to agree with you. You want them to agree with the negative thoughts and behaviors that you have towards this other individual. And it's not fair. It's not right. It's ignorant and it's immature to do. At some point, I remember growing up, in my environment, my mom was not there. And they made it perfectly clear how they felt about that or what their attitude towards her was. They made it perfectly clear that they didn't like the behavior, they didn't appreciate the behavior, and they were against the behavior, and they often let me know how they felt about that behavior. And it was also often, I was made to feel that, and if you don't do this and if you don't do that, you're going to end up just like her.
Oh, Lord. Yep, that's the famous one.
If I didn't operate the way they wanted me to operate, if I didn't do the things the way they wanted to do, they wanted me to do them, if I had my own feelings or emotions about something, it was always something wrong with how I felt. I shouldn't feel this way. Or if it wasn't in line with their negative view of her, it was something wrong with. So guess what happened? I eventually went to the side of the negative. I was like looking at her like she was just beast. I lost all sight that this is my mama. That this person gave birth to me. That to be sure that something she loves me. I didn't realize that, till of course much later that I have fallen into the game of the negativity, into the mess of negativity. My views of my mother were very skewed. Now, although she was, her lifestyle was negative. It was. But I also know that the lifestyle that she was in was a reflection of what she had been through. It was from the experiences that she had already gone through herself. So can you imagine?
But again, it was the, hey, I got raised this way. And I didn't know how to deal with my emotions with being raised this way.
Mm-hmm.
So then it turned into something to where it perpetuated that same dysfunction that she was confused about. So I
Right.
mean, it's like it's time for us to, it's just like we said, start speaking, stop stigma. Like we gotta break the cycle.
It's just time, because it's we gotta stop the generational toxic behaviors and attitudes. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody got to stop it. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to feel good, but I promise you it'll be worth it. It'll be worth knowing that my kids know they're not going to be perfect at it. Do I still make mistakes? Yes, I still make mistakes, but to be sure, my kids will not be nearly as mucked up as I was coming up and having to learn from the mistakes. And remembering the looks I got when people saw me coming, man, I pray that they never have to deal with that. And I'm hoping that how me and their father are raising them as a team will allow them to be much healthier mind, body, and spirit than we were growing up. That is the ultimate goal, is to raise healthy individuals, mind, body, and spirit. Listen, look, y'all, I appreciate y'all joining us tonight, and we're gonna come back next week with some more tea. I've been wanting to have stick to a topic, but I read Facebook posts and I'm looking at different things, and I'm like, oh, that's the idea. Oh, we got to talk about that. And pretty much that's what happened today. And it might happen again next week. I'm gonna find.
I got water. Sorry, y'all. She got tea.
Okay. That is okay. Have whatever it is you need to coat your throat, because we're gonna have to be talking about this stuff and get a little parched talking about such serious topics. But we're gonna keep it going. Again, there might be times where we record, because Doc is a doc. And she got some things she got to do, and I got some things I got to do. But we still know how important it is to serve y'all this tea. I tell y'all, we appreciate you joining. But Shannon, did you want to end with anything? Any news? Any updates? Other than we got to make sure these kids are asleep by a certain
time. Check out our book that is coming out soon, with dealing with toxic behaviors. My book actually came out today. It is called The Power of the V.
Ooh, I want my paragraph autograph copy now.
And for those of you with your heads in the gutter, the power of the V is vulnerability, not vagina.
No. We might have to come out with a book called I'm just kidding.
I mean, we're on this writing streak, so never know. We may come out with our own mental health tea topic.
Yep.
So guys, check out our books as they're coming out. Just know that we are, we keep it real, but we're coming from a really good place. We've seen a lot of things, and it's got to stop.
We've seen a lot of things, and believe it or not, we've also experienced a lot of things. I talk a lot about mine, so y'all know how I am.
And when you go to my page, check out the book, you will get an idea. I am totally vulnerable when I give you a full picture into what I've experienced. I don't know if people ready.
So if you want to read what it's, you hear people say, I don't look like what I've been through kind of thing. Go read it. And then go back and see, Doc, dang, sis, you don't look like what you've been through. That's what I'm talking about. So make sure you get the book, and it's called what again?
The Power of the B.
B. I already ordered my copy. And our next book, the next collaboration, we're working on Healing Toxic Habits, Volume 2. That is the book that I'm going to be involved in. And in fact, I'm going to be finishing working on my chapter tonight.
I'm working on my chapter too.
And she's working on, we're both involved in that book. So she's going to have 2. This is going to be your second book. This is going to be the second one for you.
Second chapter, yeah. Second book for men. Yep.
More so. But there will be more to come. We're being vulnerable. We're being transparent with what we're putting in these chapters. So,
and accountable.
Yeah, very accountable. That's the most important thing, is to be accountable, not just placing blame or showing blame, but being accountable for what we've also experienced. But thank y'all for joining. If you would like counseling, or you want to talk about getting therapy, if you're having questions about medications that you are thinking about taking for mental health issues, please make sure you reach out to Shayna. If you're wanting coaching for emotional support, please reach out to me. You can hit me in the Start Speaking Stop Stigma group. You can send me an email at startspeakingstopstigma@gmail.com. You can also call or text me at 919-964-0546 for your emotional support coaching. If you know someone, or you yourself need some assistance, please reach out. We are available, and it is important. Please prioritize your mental and emotional health. I know I don't accept insurance, and I just want to throw that out there. Shayna, I think you
We are close. We are close. I'm completing applications on just about all of the private insurance payers or funders. So come check me out.
Yep.
I will have a website for you guys soon.
So y'all stay tuned, and until next time, no matter what, keep it moving. Peace. All right.